Ghost University. It's been a little while since I talked to everybody. Work be hectic sometime. Brother be tired. But I'm going to post a little something for y'all today. Hopefully, it stays up long enough for everybody to get a view. What I have is I have the first state sanctioned satanic ceremony that happened in Detroit. I believe it was back in maybe 2015, maybe 2016. Either way, it was not too long ago. And I'll let the Satanist inform everybody of what it means to be Luciferian slash Satanist. They'll inform you that to be a Satanist just pretty much means that you're living your own life. You're going to live it how you think you should live it, which means you're going to be self-governed and you're going to be godless. Those are their own words. And they also say if you fail to speak up about you being self-governed and godless, that you're breeding pestilence. Pestilence is for like a disease and the sort that spread around causing death. So they're comparing your silence to you spreading disease because you don't want to speak up about how you're godless and you're self-governed and you're for sexual and moral freedom. Moral freedom, again, leads to you just doing whatever you want to do. And many people have said over the years, if you're doing what you want to do, or you have a slogan like Nike who says just do it, or do you, or I have my own truth, it's all the same. They all come from the same cup of tea. And this thought really came from one of the more prominent people anyway, who put this thought forward was Aleister Crowley. Many people know who Aleister Crowley is around now. He was I wouldn't really call him a philosopher. I'd probably call him an idiot. But hey, it is what it is. He said, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. In other words, do what you want to do. Or as one of the brothers whose other videos I watched recently, who was speaking on this same subject, used a quote from Digital Underground. You know, do what you like, or do who you like. You know, talk how you like. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing what you want to do, and then allegedly you're not hurting anyone. So I'm going to play their video, and as they speak, or as the lady speaks, as the Satanist speaks, I'll jump in with my own thoughts about what she's speaking about. All right, so let's have a little bit of fun with this. I try and keep this as entertaining as I can, considering the serious subject matter. Let's move on to the video. Thanks for listening.
Hail, comrades! Hail, sisters and brothers, and hail, Satan! We are gathered here to celebrate the spirit of humanity and the dawn of a new American era. In a season when many commemorate the birth of Christ, we commemorate our own Genesis, the enlightenment of all humanity, a revelation of our nature as written in the annals of history, a gift from Lucifer, the light bringer, the morning star, and the rebel.
Let's carry this out one step further. The Satanists believe that if Lucifer is in the right, that means he gave us something. That's a true belief of theirs. They believe that they were given that. God was withholding the idea that they could make their own choices for their own selves. They didn't want God to be in judgment of them. They're going to judge for themselves and say, forget you, God. It doesn't matter what you say. We're going to do this on our own. And you have no say-so, God. You were the creator. You're the creator, God, but we don't care. We're going to do whatever we want to do. And how dare you do something to us? Now, I want to point out that in the process of them saying that, they understand that God and Satan will have a fight. There's going to be a fight one day. But they believe Satan will defeat God. They understand the scriptures. They understand what's in it. So that means that they understand Lucifer or Satan, whatever you want to call him, and God are going to have a fight. They believe Lucifer is going to win.
We are Satanists. We engender moral, spiritual, and sexual freedom, personal independence, and insist upon personal choice in all things. We care for the significance of the individual spirit and personal moral responsibility. If you stand here today and embrace your nature, are free-thinking, self-governed, and godless, you too are a Satanist in the eyes of many in your own community, including those who represent you in your governments. We are also Americans, a nation born of men and women seeking asylum from a majority religious group in control of political power who punish those who oppose them. In the words of Thomas Jefferson, our civil rights have no dependence on our religious opinions any more than the opinions in physics or geometry.
Okay, so for once, I agree. They're right. Civil rights shouldn't have any bearing on what your religion is. Duh, obviously. If the Constitution never mentioned God, I wouldn't care. All right? I wouldn't care. Because the Constitution isn't going to dictate what my religion is. All right? I think this will be the only point in this video in which I agree with them. I think. I'm not sure. We'll see.
On these very steps 2 weeks ago, hundreds of Christians gathered to demand exclusion of our fellow countrymen from the right to join in marriage under the guise of religious freedom. They slandered the name of this great country for embracing the diversity of its citizens. They cheered and praised when called upon to radicalize. For too many, religion has become an excuse to exclude, to hate, and to destroy. It is time for us to merge our differences and realize that we have a common problem. It matters not if you are a Baptist or a Methodist, a Muslim, or if you are faithless. You see, we are not anti-Christian and we are not anti-religion, but we are anti-degradation and we are anti-oppression.
Sometimes worldviews will overlap, and we will share things in common. As a Christian, it's very possible I can share some ideas in common with a Satanist, like the idea of not being degraded or suffering degradation or oppression. I agree. And if you are a true Christian, you're not about oppression. Now, you will be about what's proper for society. Now, you won't try and force those things upon people. You'll expect for folk to adhere or at least respect your ideals. And maybe if they're going to do those things, that they just take it home, the same as any Christian would do. Okay? So, most Christians, especially in 2022, are not about taking it a step further with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. There are some women who feel like they're being degraded and oppressed. And it's making some of them run out and get their ovaries taken out because they can't or possibly won't be able to get an abortion. I don't know if you take it that far, but I guess when your feelings are hurt and you think that there is no other option, then that's where you take it to. I don't know. I think maybe people need more self-control. But hey, I'm not a woman, but I am a man. And both men and women should exercise self-control. And that's really what we're talking about here. So, moving on. Alice Bailey also said that she thought that those who are and have been initiated into the Masonic lodges and other branches of Freemasonry should come together and realize that they're all fighting for the same thing. They're not opposed to each other. They're fighting for the same thing. If she was alive today, she'd probably say that liberals and Satanists and Masons, and perhaps even those in the Catholic Church, should all come together. And even those in witchcraft should all come together and work towards their common goal. The goal of being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. So, there is, to a certain degree, safety in numbers. So if you can bring your numbers together and fight for what you want, then maybe, hey, if you can convince the majority of Congress to make Satanism our national religion, maybe they do that. But I don't think in general most people really want Satanism being their, the national religion of the United States. Never has been, never will be. We'd be a nation full of communists before we did that, at least in my opinion.
For too long, the satanic characterization has been evoked by the righteous to control the outsider. For too long, we have submitted on knees in servitude to the ministers of shame. Shall we surrender to the siren song of the religious rites until she transforms us into beasts?
No!
Satanism is a philosophy of action. And those who desire and act not breed pestilence. We do not seek followers. We are seeking collaborators. Individuals for a visionary satanic alliance. Leaders of the new American era. But we have to do more than just lead to ensure a free America. We have to do more when the belief in archaic illusions of an ancient religion is a mandatory requirement for our elected representatives. We have to do more when our government determines our sexuality for us.
Let's make it clear. They're not talking about Buddhism. They're not talking about Hinduism. They're not even talking about Catholicism. Specifically, the ancient religion that interferes with them being able to do whatever they want to do is Christianity. They're not even talking about Islam. It doesn't even get in the way as much as Christianity does. But if they want to make change, just like everyone else does, they're going to have to fight. And I don't mean physical violence. I mean, you have to get your group together and make some things happen.
We have to do more when children are denied the home of loving parents because the genders of their partner. We have to do more when women are denied access to reproductive health care and vilified as murderers by those selected to represent them in the government. The Word of God has been evoked time and time again to justify the opposition to civil rights movements, to squash women's liberation, to target medical treatment for HIV, and end same-sex marriage. That is not religious freedom. The inclusion of all is not oppression. And the voices of the minority are not valueless. That is not our America. And it is time to awaken. These so-called godly institutions call themselves victims and call for radicalization. This is a snake upon our hooves.
Being a Christian or having some form of belief in God has been a mandatory requirement because the people of the nation have decided that they want to be led by someone that's like them, someone that understands their agreements and their disagreements with the way life should be led and what's right for a society. What the problem is that we will have a minority of people in society that want to just do like these people want to do, which is whatever the hell they think they can do at any given time. And that will indeed lead to us having problems. you'll never be able to satisfy everyone. I've said it before that there's a book called The Black Book of Communism, where they were having so many meetings to satisfy everyone's desires that they were basically having what they called everlasting meetings because it never ended. And it will never end if you have a society full of people where everyone has their own truth, or even if you just have pockets of society that one group disagrees with another group. You got 10 people here and another 10 people over there. If we divided society, if we divided 400,000 people by 100, you'd have 4,000 different groups all fighting for what they want their elected officials to do. Now, that's what officials are there to do. You elect who you want. But if those people are spread out all over the place, you'll never get what you want because of how states operate. I mean, maybe if you get rid of states, then you wouldn't have any problem. That's another problem for another day. Is when the time comes when we no longer have states or borders. If we get rid of the borders, we're going to have problems because then, who knows what will be allowed in the boundaries of your state. But if you don't have a state, you have no borders. So maybe in the future, we'll have to be on the lookout more for these sorts of things happening, where there are no borders. And people say, let's get rid of all the borders. We don't need an electoral college, and who cares about the population where you live? Everything will just be one complete group of people. I think we're in trouble coming down the road here.
America is not an instrument of any one religious group. Do you want to be part of a sleeping world? No! Do you want to gorge on the drug of the commonplace? No! Will you forever remain addicted to the oppressive traditions of a counterfeit morality? No! But we must tell those people who represent us. As we stand on the crossroads of history, let us confront the blind and self-righteous, the persecutors of thought and reason. Let us rise up in celebration of our satanic nature and cast our chains into the dust of hell.
There are a lot of knowledgeable people out here who watch these sorts of videos. And many of you are probably aware of when the Supreme Court decided that abortion could be legal. The real reason it was legal, or they decided it could be legal, was because they decided it would be a private matter. And due to the fact you make it private, as it's nobody else's business, right? Because it's a medical procedure. So you go and you see the doctor. Well, doctors' records are private matters. They're between doctor and patient. All right? Nobody can just go and get your private medical records and know what sorts of procedures you've had. Even those days are changing, but for the longest time, that's what it was. Judge Alito, he wrote a very interesting opinion where he let people know that for the most part, everyone understood that it was a life inside of a woman. And that wasn't up for debate. But the part that was up for the debate, apparently, was whether it was a private matter or not. And once they decided it was a private matter, then nothing else mattered. But hey, I mean, how far does that stretch? I mean, what all can we determine as a private matter now? What's private and what isn't? Again, there are nuances to every discussion. So, again, what's private and what isn't? Especially in a lawful sense. And if it's a life and someone determines that you murdered a life, then that's not really private, because anybody could claim that. So, hey, that was a private issue. Stay out of my business. That person deserved to die. Nobody should be able to go ask the next person, hey, did you commit that murder or not? Stay out of my business. It's private. It doesn't concern you. Or else you might have to get murdered too. But that's not how society works in general. But yeah, private versus non-private was the real issue of Roe v. Wade. There's a video, I'm gonna put a link in the description so you guys can hear someone else talk about what Judge Alito determined. Because Alito said, yo, for years on end, people knew it was a baby. And he also said he felt like the Supreme Court had screwed that one up. And so they were going to make things right. And they overturned it. But hey, I mean, there was still hope because it's still up to the states. So I don't know what the big deal is about. I mean, hey, talk to your congressman, would you? That's what we've always preached, right?
Those who boldly propose that organizations of faith hold a leading role in guiding American policy and justice, I solemnly and with great sincerity thank. Satanic America has heard your call to action. If religion is to lead in areas which have traditionally been left to a secular democracy, we will do our duty too, to bring the insights of our satanic practice to the State House, to the courthouse, to schools, and of course, homes and businesses of America.
These people, these Satanists, I need to stop saying these people. These Satanists are associating liberty with complete freedom to do as you please. I'm afraid liberty doesn't quite mean that. You know, we call ourselves a land of the free, the home of the brave. Well, no one in society, at least not in America, has ever been completely free to do as they please. Because the truth of the matter is, if you do whatever you want, don't be mad when law enforcement shows up and you're under arrest for breaking a law. The society has determined that we don't want you doing that. For whatever reason that it is. Don't be mad that society has rules and laws, because truth be told, even if you got together with your Satanist group, there are going to be some Satanists who say, okay, well, you can do whatever you want, but just don't do this. It's going to happen. There are rules and regulations everywhere. Even in the Masonic Lodge, even amongst Satanists, I'm sure. You just can't do whatever you want to do. Like, there's no real place where you can do that. If there is, that's called anarchy. Lawlessness in the Bible is called iniquity. And God has a special place for those who want to spread iniquity, who want to spread lawlessness. Because in God's eyes, there are laws that people should abide by. In society's eyes, there are laws that you should abide by. Everywhere you go. If you don't own your home, and if you're a teenager or a child and you live under your parents' roof, there are going to be laws. When you go out in the street, there are going to be laws out there. So once again, the idea that you can do whatever you want to do isn't reality. The reality is if you do whatever you want to do, especially something that's illegal, you better be prepared to pay penalties if you get caught. Now, if you don't get caught, that's something else altogether. But if you're caught, be prepared to pay penalties, fines, jail time, probation, being watched, whatever it is. Because there isn't really a place where you can just do whatever you want to do. And people should get that idea out of their mind. Because even if everyone has their own truth, you're not going to just be able to do whatever you want to do to anybody or any given time. How do you know the truth that you share in common with someone, so you know when if you're violating or not? There has to be a discussion held. You know, are we going to have violation-free zones? Hey, that's the purge. That's the purge, right? Where you could do whatever you wanted at any given time on that day. Even with the purge, they let you know that, hey, there's only a certain time you can do this. Because if you do it on some other day, you're going to be in big trouble. So people should get that out of their minds. By the way, I don't know if I said this or not, but the Statue of Liberty was given to us by French Freemasons. And so in that, there's the idea of double meanings in words, where liberty can mean either you can do everything you want to do, or you're only at liberty to do certain things. And that's the problem. How exactly are we defining liberty and freedom? Does free mean free across the board? Or does it mean kind of free? Does liberty mean whatever you want to do? Or you're kind of at liberty? I mean, hey man, I'm open for discussion. Talk to me.
Wherever and whenever diverse religious guidance is needed. All hail the new American era. An America that embraces our fellow neighbors with the integrity of their character rather than the God to whom they pray. An America where we stand to defend justice and honor for our brothers and sisters regardless of whom they call husband or wife and regardless of their personal bodily choices. Comrades, we are just as powerful as those who work in this institution here. Those who wish to uphold the traditions of old feel us breathing down their necks. And we will continue to be the voice of reason to ensure that our America remains free and equal. All hail the eternal rebel within all of us. To liberty, humanity, and justice. To the satanic emancipator and end of repressive traditions. Hail Satan!